by the Forms tab and then Form List. This is the only place you'll be able to find your forms. Now, I've already created a real quick membership application and job form for you. And so right off the bat, and this is going to be a lot of information, which is why I'll send you the recording, because you can go back and listen to it. Basically, any form that we create in here is going to be pushed to this area. These forms that you see, there's a couple different things that we can do to them. You'll see that as I hover over them. There's some options over here to the right. There are these 3 horizontal dots. If I click on these 3 dots, it allows me to either delete or copy the form. Deleting the form. We'll only be able to delete the form if there is not a form submission. The second a form submission is made, we will no longer be able to delete the form. And the reason why is because forms are used to collect information. And so if you deleted the form after you've collected the information on members, it's going to delete all the information you collected. So it's mass deleting information. So to prevent you from ever mass deleting information, we just don't allow you to delete the form. So once there's a form submission, you can't delete a form. That means over time, you're going to have a ton of forms in here, right? Because you can never delete your forms. And you're going to be creating a new form for every event, every survey. There are some forms that you're going to reuse, like your membership application. The job form can be reused. The contact us form can be reused. If you have a donation form, it can be reused. But for events and such, you're going to want separate forms. So we have a couple things that we've done to help you navigate all of those forms that you'll eventually have in the system. First of all, your forms will always be listed in alphabetical order. So you may want to always keep your job form, your membership application, a lot of these forms at the top. If there are some forms like the contact us form, if you don't need to look at that all the time, you can put like Z's in front of it. So at this list view, it'll drop to the bottom. So it's not like at the top in your face. It might drop to the bottom of the list if you just don't need to look at it all the time. Just an example of what some associations have done in the past. You also have a search bar up here that'll allow you to search your forms. Lastly, we recently have added an archived option. So you can publish your forms, unpublish your forms, and archive your forms. So if you had a 2017 event, you could archive that form because you don't need that anymore, really. And if you ever did need it, you can select Show Archived Forms, and it would pop up. You'd be able to review it. You can also copy forms. This is going to become your best friend. So if we can create an event form together, like just a basic event template, you can just always copy that instead of having to create a new form from scratch every time. So hopefully we'll be able to do something along those lines before you're ready to graduate.
Awesome.
You can also take this form. Taking this form will allow you to take the form on behalf of somebody else. So let's say that somebody calls you up and says, hey, I really need to, I want to register for membership. I just haven't had time to get in front of my computer. You can just say, oh yeah, let me get your information over the phone. You'll take this form, and you can either choose somebody from your list that we have, or we can just proceed to the new profile.
Okay. Wow.
And then lastly, you can edit the forms. That's going to take us into the form editor, which we're going to go into in just a second. But basically, this just lets you make edits to the form. Any questions so far?
Nope.
Okay. So our forms, by default, have different sections inside of them. Every single form we create in the system will have a login section, a summary section, a payment section, and a confirmation section. Every form we create will have those 4 sections built in, no matter what type of form it is.
Okay.
The body of the form can be one of 3 different types of sections. So you'll always have a login, you'll always have a summary, always have a payment, always have a confirmation. But then the body of the form could be one of 3 options, or a combination of 3 options, but that's, anyways. It could be a membership application section, an event registration section, or a general section. So if we're creating a membership application, we're going to use the membership application section as the body of our form, which means we would have the login section, the membership application section, the summary section, the payment section, and the confirmation section. We're going to look at this in a second. I'm just kind of giving you a little bit of preliminary information, but you'll be able to see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So if you're going to come in here and create a form, we're going to select create a form. The first thing we need to do is name our form. So I'm going to name this contact us. This name is internal, by the way. You can name it whatever you want to name it that will help you understand what this form is being used for.
Okay.
Then we're going to determine, okay, what type of section do we want it to bring? The system's going to bring in the section for us, depending on what type of form we're creating. So I mentioned it could be a membership section, an event section, or a general section. So if we were going to make a membership application, we're going to say that this form is used for membership.
Okay.
If we were going to create an event registration, we're going to say this form will be used for an event registration. Our form could technically be used for both. I don't love doing that. It's a little complicated to me, but you could use it for both. And if you're making any other type of form, it could be used for neither. And that would be the general section, which would allow us to create any other type of form.
Okay.
So we know that right now we're creating a contact us form. You and I know that that's not an event registration form, and we know it's not a membership application, right? So we're going to check neither, and we're going to use a general section. Does that make sense why we're doing this?
Yeah.
Okay. So at this point, I'm going to hit save. Now this is going to bring us into our form builder. Our form builder is comprised of a left column and a right column. The right column is what we're going to focus on first. The right column is just a rough draft of our form. It's what the form will look like on the front end, but it's just not pretty yet.
Okay.
And this is where we can start looking at our different sections of our form. So the first section I mentioned was a login section, and this will be in every single form that you create. So the login section is really important for a couple of reasons, and I'm going to go ahead and select properties, and we're going to look at the properties for the login section. So I just clicked on this properties button. There are different things that we can do to this section, different things that we can customize about it. And this is going to prompt the user to either log in with existing credentials, or if they're a new user, new to the site, it's going to have them put in their email, and it's going to create a prospect profile for them if they do not already have a profile.
So they have to create an account if they want to contact us.
If okay, so this is kind of an exception.
Okay.
For a contact us form, notice over here when I click the properties for the login section, I can disable the login section.
Oh.
For a contact us form,
Okay.
we're going to disable the login section.
Okay. But
Any other type of,
I mean, yeah, because like membership, obviously they got to register. And so for events as well, I want them to register.
Exactly. Now, something else that I want to mention, you'll want to use the login section for every other type of form. The reason why is because the login section is what recognizes the individual. So if somebody registers for something or wants to become a member, if they're not logged in, it's going to come through as an anonymous submission. It's not going to say that they've registered in their profile. It's not searchable in the system.
Okay.
You can't send a confirmation email if the login section is off, because it doesn't know who to send it to, because it doesn't recognize a profile. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So you will just about always want to have the login section on. This just happens to be an exception to the rule. Okay. I also mentioned, I'm going to turn this back on for just a second. I also mentioned when I first created this form, I said that we're going to name it Contact Us, but this Contact Us I said was internal, if you remember that. So you see it, your members don't see it. Well, what do your members see? They will see whatever name is on the tab of each section of the form as they navigate through. So they would see login. Now we're not using the login section, we're turning it off. So they're not going to see they're not going to, they wouldn't even see this, so it doesn't matter. They would see the next tab of the next section, which, and this is a little convoluted and I'm sorry, but I'm going to bring in the, we'll come back to this, but I'm bringing in a general section right now.
Uh-huh.
So this is the name of the tab that they would see. We would want to make sure the properties for the general section, notice there's the name again of the section reads contact us.
Okay.
This is going to update on this tab, which tells us that this is what they would see.
Okay.
Did I totally confuse the heck out of you?
Not, I mean, I understand, but I'm trying to visualize it too.
So let's do this. Don't pay attention to what I'm doing for just a second.
Okay. I'll even turn
so
my
let's
head.
do this. Good. This is going to help you, I think. Contact us. Okay. Oh, no. Why am I not eligible to take this form? Bear with me for a second. I'm trying to,
Okay.
I'm just trying to, I don't want to do that yet. There's nothing that's going to show up. I'll put in the name really fast. Okay, so go ahead and look at my screen.
Okay.
So do you see where that says contact us? And then
Yeah.
I've added the name. I had to add the name field because if I didn't add a field, it wasn't going to let us view it. I'll show you what I did to do that. But basically, this is what they're seeing. They're not seeing contact us because we called the form contact us. They're seeing contact us because I put that in the section that we created. So when I pulled in the general section, which we're going to talk about in a second. So here, I named this contact us.
And that's
now,
okay.
If I turned the login section back on, so I just re-enabled this login section, now it's going to take us to a login page first.
Okay. Cool.
I would have to log in, but we don't, for somebody to contact you, we don't need them to log in. So that's why we're turning that off. And they see login, right?
Correct.
Bless you. The reason they see that is because it's in this tab. So if I went back to the properties for the login section and I maybe called this login, see where this is pulling from. Then I went back. Bless you, goodness.
Thank you. Okay.
So now this is up here because that's where it's pulling from.
Okay.
Is the tab.
Okay.
But we're not using the login section, so we don't see that tab.
Okay.
Some other things that I want to point out about the properties for the login section. We get to determine what type of users can log in if we're using a login section. Let's say that this is an event and the event is only for existing users. We could only allow existing users to log in. And what that means is that now there's only a place for the existing users to put their information.
Okay.
It could be only for new users. And now it's only got the information for new users.
Okay.
And then of course it could be for both.
Okay.
The last thing that I want to point out, there's a toggle that allows multiple submissions. For a contact us form, you might want to allow multiple submissions. It really doesn't matter because it can't track if you've submitted something in the past or not because you're not logged in.
Okay.
But for an event registration form, you would have the login on and you would not allow multiple submissions because you don't want somebody to go, did I register for that? I don't remember. I'll just do it again. And now you've got 2 registrations for the same person, 2 invoices, you're having to credit money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless, except for, and here's a biggie, donation forms, right? If somebody wanted to come in here and donate every single day, I don't know if you guys can accept donations, but if somebody wanted to donate every single day, heck yeah. They can have as many multiple submissions as they want to. And we do want them to log in for a donation form because we really want to be able to keep track of who's donating to you in their profile, you know?
Totally. Okay.
Any questions on the login section?
Nope.
Okay. So then the next section, there is a membership section in every form that we create, but it is always going to be turned off unless you checked in the beginning that the form was used for membership, then it's automatically on for you. This is not a big deal because I've already created your membership application for you. We'll review that today, I think. We'll have some time to do that.
Okay.
All right. Then the only section I have to manually bring in is a general section. I'm going to show you how I brought that in just a little bit, but I just want to point out to you, I can look at the properties for the general section. The only thing I can do for this is change what it's called. When I first brought it in, it was called a general section. We don't want your members to go from, we don't want them to be greeted with something that says general section because they're like, what is that? That doesn't make any sense to them. We want to make sure we're calling our tab whatever the form is called.
Okay.
We'll come back to this in a moment. Summary section. I mentioned every form has a summary section. We'll always want to make sure we look at the properties for the summary section, turn it on. This just allows your members to review the information they provided to you.
Okay.
This will continue to grow as we add more fields to the form. We only have the name field on the form right now, so this is the only field they could summarize, right? Because it's the only field that they could fill in.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Payment, always want to make sure you've got this set up. Now, we're not collecting payment for a contact us form, so we don't need it. If it was a form we were collecting money on, we would want to make sure that we selected a payment processor, our invoice template. Now, you can allow them to come back and pay later if there's a payment. So let's say they're registering for an event. If they have to pay at time of registering for the event, you would leave this toggle off, meaning they have to pay right then and there before they can submit the form.
Okay.
If they can come back and pay at a later time, you would toggle this on. That means they can submit the form and they'll have an open invoice in your system that they could come back to and pay later.
Okay.
Lastly, there is this new option. We just added this and it's really cool. Override invoice templates due date. Do you remember us talking about invoice templates on the database training?
Uh-huh.
And so invoice templates are going to be those notifications that go out to remind people to make sure they're paying their invoice if they have an open one. So it also determines the due date of the invoice. So a lot of times it's a due date of an invoice is 30 days from the day that the invoice was created. This toggle allows you to choose a specific due date of the invoice. The reason this is helpful is because if you have an event, I've had a lot of associations in the past who go, well, I don't want them to have to pay the invoice until the event date. And the event date isn't until 3 months from now. And so you can choose the specific date that the invoice is due instead of it pulling from the invoice template.
Okay.
That's everything for the payment section. The last section is the confirmation section. This allows them to review. So once they submit the form, this page is going to pop up. Thank you, your form has been submitted successfully. You can edit this confirmation page and make it a little bit more personable.
Okay.
And then the properties. So if I click properties for the confirmation section, allows you to set up a confirmation email. Now we can't use the confirmation email because they're not logging in. So the system doesn't know where to send the confirmation email.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But in the future, you'll be able to use this, especially for event registrations or your membership application. And the reason this is awesome is because not only is the confirmation email going to go to them, you can also blind copy yourself.
Okay.
The reason that this is really cool is because instead of you having to come into MemberClicks every day to see if you've gotten a new member that's joined, you just receive a notification in your email.
Ah.
And then what we can do is use our merge data tool. So we've always got this merge data tool in every editor, and you can merge in things about the person who registered, like their first name, their last name. what member type they chose, things like that.
Oh, okay.
Are you following me so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to say, instead of your form, I'm going to say thank you. I would usually, for a contact us form, put something like, we will be following up to your question in the next 48 hours or something like that. Do you want me to type anything like that in here?
Yeah, I think that'll be fine. I like that, 48 hours.
I could say question, comments.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, so this is all the sections of our form. Now, you'll notice as I worked through the form, every time I clicked on properties of each section, or I can click on specific fields in the form, like this thank you confirmation box I can click on. I can click on these boxes in the login area, which we're not using the login, but we can click on those boxes. Anytime I click on properties or any of these things, the element properties tab on the left-hand column pops up.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime we're clicking on a specific section or field, the element properties tab lets us change something about that specific field, that specific section.
Okay.
Then we have our form settings tab. The form settings tab allows us to make changes to the entire form. So anything we do under form settings affects the whole form. Anything we do under element properties affects that particular section or field. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so form settings, let's review this. This is things like the form name, the form description. Both of these are internal. The form alias. So if you remember from our content training, do you remember what the alias was?
Contact dash us.
Well, in this case, it can. I've just made it contact, but do you remember why it's useful? What it's used for? That's okay. So it's if we went to caco.memberclicks.net/contact, it would bring us to this form.
Yes.
So it's what makes up part of the URL.
Is there a created page?
So when I tested this form, if I type in caco.memberclicks.net/contact.
Mm-hmm. It takes you that form.
Takes us to this form.
Mm-hmm.
And we can link this in the site.
Okay.
Does that make sense? You sound
yeah,
because
if you click on the contact us, it's going to be contact-us, isn't it?
When I click here on contact us?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because you created an article called contact-us.
Okay. Okay.
So that's why I made the alias different for the forms, because you can't have the same alias for two different things.
Okay.
Right? They have to be different.
Okay. But they can be the same thing, right? That contact us can be that form, right?
Yeah. So all I'd have to do is we would just go to that contact us menu item.
So
I'm going to go to
By the way,
main
this
menu.
morning I added a menu item for the first time.
Yay!
And I did it. I was proud of myself.
That's awesome. So all I'm going to do is click on the contact us menu item, and it's not going to an article anymore, so I need to change the type.
Okay.
And I'm going to change it to a form.
Awesome. Okay. And all your forms are going to be listed under there.
Only the contact us form.
Well, I saw that it had membership listed. So every form that you build, will it be listed under there when you go to
under this form?
Correct.
Yes.
Are they all going to be listed right there?
Yes.
Okay. Except if you archive or something, probably.
Say that again?
Except if you archive, I'm sure.
Correct. Archive forms would not show up here, but all the other forms would.
Okay, awesome.
So you can link to any form from a menu item. So now if I go to your site, if I hit contact us, it takes us to the form now.
Okay, awesome.
So we're going to keep building out that form. We're going to go back to form list, but we're going to talk more about the form settings for just a second. So contact us. I'm editing it. Okay. So we were talking about form settings, form name.
I think I lost your audio. Can you hear me? I think you may have muted yourself. Hello? If you can hear me, I can't hear you. I will hop off and hop back in. Can you hear me?
The door on? Yeah. That goes on your bus. That goes on your bus.
you hear me now? Oh no, I don't know what happened. Hey.
Hey.
Finally, I don't know what, that was so silly. I don't know what happened.
I don't know either. All of a sudden it just went quiet. I could tell it wasn't picking up any audio from you because every time I made a noise, my name popped up. And so.
So you couldn't hear me either, and I couldn't hear you.
No, I couldn't hear you at all.
Oh,
but
it's so very weird.
Software GoToMeeting was showing that it could hear me, but it wasn't ever showing any recognition from you. So I don't know what happened.
That's weird. All right, well, so we were going through the form settings, and these are things that affect the form as a whole. We're talking about the form expiration date and how if there was an event, the form expiration date would be useful. And then, so you'll see this permissions everywhere throughout the site. And this permissions piece has to do with who can even see this form in this area. If you're looking at it under the element properties, it's who's even able to see that field. So if you need to collect information from one of your member types and maybe not some of the other member types, you could permission it so that only that member type saw it. And that would allow you to be able to basically create field logic within the form.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Now, there are two items that we can use, date-based pricing and discount codes. We can use these on general forms or event forms, but they can never be used on membership applications. So we can't apply date-based pricing or discount codes from here. Now, I think that you mentioned that sometimes you guys offer membership discounts, which we were going to talk about a little bit later, because it's kind of an exception, but there's something we could do to, am I right?
Yeah, because what if we want to do like some sort of promotion, you know?
Yeah, promotions are better run through, like discounts to events or something like that.
But not memberships. Like, so let's say that I set up an affiliate partnership with another company and I can, like, is there any way for me to pay them a commission on anybody that signed up for a membership? Probably not.
No, not through MemberClicks, because MemberClicks can't pay anybody. It's only going to be bringing in money.
Yeah.
But you could give them, so what you could do is give that one business like a complimentary member type. Or instead of a complimentary.
I can't have any sort of referral fee, I guess, set up. Like, so let's say that, you know, if I have an affiliate partnership, like, let's say it's an attorney's office, and that attorney's office drives traffic to my site, and somebody signs up for a membership, puts in the discount code. I can't do that because discount codes can only be applied to events, right? Not membership.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They wouldn't be available for that.
Because I mean, like, that tells me that there's no way of me being able to track memberships. Yeah, I can't do that with memberships then. Okay.
Yeah, the best way to do that is either, let's spend a separate time talking about that because I don't want it to get too confusing.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine.
But these can be used on general forms or event forms. So what that means is date-based pricing, we would be able to set up like early bird or late fees. Discount codes could be like if you had sponsors that were coming to an event and they could come for free or for a discounted rate, then you would just give them the discount code like sponsor 2018. And when they type that in at the end, it would give them the discount.
Okay. Yeah, totally.
Okay. Cool. Then the last piece we have here is the forward URL. So this forward URL is when somebody submits a form, by default, they're taken back to the main page of the website.
Okay.
If you want them to be redirected somewhere else, you would put that link in here. So when they submit the form, maybe you want them to go to a page about membership benefits. Then you would put the link to your membership benefits page here. And that's where they would be redirected.
All right.
Uh-oh, hold on one second. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Sorry, that was dying on me.
Oh,
Well, 1 second. We'll just do it. Perfect. Can you still hear me?
I can.
Okay, awesome. Great. So at this point, we've talked about all the different sections that make up our form. We've talked about element properties, which is the tab that determines things we can customize about specific fields or sections. We've talked about form settings. Anything you do under form settings is going to affect the entire form. The last tab we have to go through is add form elements. So when you're ready to add a field to your form, you're adding a form element. Now, adding form elements is broken up into 4 different segments: built-ins and custom attributes. So we've talked about built-in attributes and custom attributes when we did our database training. Basically,
Yes.
when you add either of these types of attributes to a form, it's communicating with the member's profile and storing their information in their profile. So if on this form, now the person has to be logged in, so this is a bad example, but traditionally when there's a login section, if you ask for somebody's name, it's going to take their name and store it in their profile. If you've already collected their name, it's going to auto-populate on the form for them.
Nice.
So any information you've already collected on them, they're not going to have to re-type in. It's just going to auto-populate, which will save them time.
Awesome.
So in the contact us form, so we've got all these different types of built-in attributes. For a contact us form, usually the only things you would ask for is like their name, their email, which let me back up. All I did there is I grabbed their email and I dragged it into the form and dropped it. So if we want to add items to our form, if we're ready to start building it out and adding different attributes, different fields, we're just grabbing and dragging.
Okay.
And then it automatically brings us to the element properties of that particular field that we just added. We don't need the phone number really, so I can re-delete this unless you want to ask for it, but usually
No.
it would just be name and email. Now I can click on that name field. There are my element properties, and I can make it required.
Okay.
Same for email. You probably want to make this required. This would be a drop down. Now, you will never memorize all of these element properties, and you will probably feel lost in here for a while. So the easiest way to handle that is if you're like, I really want to make name not required. What do I need to do? Just click on it, and you work your way from the top to the bottom of the element properties. Okay, label. I know that's how it's listed. So like if I wanted to change the label, it could be, please list your first and last name.
Okay.
Below. See how that's changing over here?
Yeah.
So now if I looked at my form just to see how that affects it, see how now instead of saying name, it says please list your first and last name below, and then we've added the email.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
So that's what label is going to be how it's labeled on the form. And then we've got required, enable this element. Yes, we want it turned on. That's why we added it to our form. Who can see the form or who can see this field? And then we could copy or delete it. And I do want name required. So when we add form elements, we've got our built-ins. Then we have custom attributes. Same thing. These are also going to communicate with the member's profile.
Okay.
Then we've got form. So these are stored in members' profiles, or they auto-populate onto the form from their profile. Then we have form fields. Form fields are stored in the form submission, but not in the member's profile. Now, in what we're doing right now, since the login section is not on, it's not storing any of this information in their profile anyways. But in the future, like for an event registration, you will have the login section turned on, and it will store all of this information in their login section. So then you would be using these form fields to collect information that you need for the form submission, not in the member's profile. For example, if you have pricing, an event is $25 to come to and they have to pay $25. That doesn't need to be a custom or built-in attribute because you don't need to know that in their profile that in 2017 December they pay $25 to come to your event. You just need it to create an invoice and for the form submission itself. So you would use a form field for that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So form fields only are being stored in the members. In the form submission.
Okay.
So, example, country is going to be a drop down of all the different countries. Now we would want to change the label. We don't want it to read country. We might want it to read, what country would you like to have our 2018 conference? I mean, that's kind of silly, but you could do something like this. Now, anytime you've changed a label, if you ever see this export name, you always want to make sure you're copying and pasting it in the export name. That's what the column header will be if you export these form submissions, which you will have the ability to do. So you can export your form submissions in an Excel spreadsheet. Whatever's in the export name is what's going to come over.
Okay.
So what country would you like to have our 2018 conference? You don't need to know that 5 years from now. You don't need to store information like that in their profile. You just need it for the form submission. Right? Okay. Going back to add form elements, date. This is just going to have them put in a date. It's going to pop up a little calendar and they'll have to put in a date for whatever question you're asking.
Okay.
File is going to allow them to upload a file.
Ooh.
Image will allow them to upload an image. I'm going to come back to these two. Number and selection set. State is a drop down of all the states. A text box allows them to put in just whatever text you would want to, any question that you would need to ask them. So for our contact us form, this is applicable because what we would say is,
comments.
Please list
Question,
comments. Questions below. And we would make that required. Now, some of these have their own little specific quirks, and like I mentioned, you'll never remember all this. I don't even remember them all. So like display type, you just have to start from the top and work your way down. Display type for a text box allows us to either have a text box, which is just one line like this, or a text area. Gives them more space, which I think for something like this is necessary.
Yeah.
Now, I don't need these fields that we've added, so I'm just going to click on them, and I can delete them under the element properties. So when I hit delete, it's gone. Same for file. Nice. Same for date. So now we've just got their name, email preferred, please list comments, questions below. Now I mentioned that number and selection set are special. Number. If I grab and drag this onto the form, this will be used to collect just a number, right? It can't have special characters. It can't have spaces. It would literally just be like an identification number, like some type of ID number, or just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is not super useful, I don't think. Except if you start at the top and work your way down to the bottom, you'll notice it can be a price field. If we toggle on price field, it's going to create a price field for us. This triggers an invoice to be created from this form. So an example could be, how many tickets do you need for the 2018 conference? Making sure that we're always copying our label name into our export name. Now the tickets won't be $1, but we can change the price per unit. So maybe there's $75 a ticket. So if this person put in on the form, I need 5 tickets. So I'll show you what this looks like. We've got our name, our preferred. Please list comments, questions below. This allows more space if they need it. How many tickets do you need for the 2018 conference? We could say 5. And when we looked at our invoice, it's going to do 5 times 75 and give us the total on the invoice for that.
Okay.
Now, if you can't think of a way that that could be helpful, instead of doing that, we could do a currency input. Currency input means they can just put in however much money they want to. This is what we would use for a donation form.
Okay.
Now, anytime we put a field on our form that's collecting money, we need to
Which
tell your
field
system.
is this called again?
Do what?
Which field is this called again?
This is under Add Form Elements, Form Fields, Number.
Number. Okay.
Now, anytime you're adding a money field to your form, there's always going to be an Edit Payment Processor and Revenue Account option. The reason why is because you need to tell your system where the money's going. It can't just go into a general blank field, right? You need to actually tell it what revenue account it's going to go into so that you can categorize it and search it.
Okay. Cool.
You also need to determine how this is going to read on the invoice. You wouldn't want this to read number or how many tickets do you need for the 2018 conference. Instead, you would want it to be 2018 conference ticket total, right? Or something like that. Something that makes sense as an invoice line item.
Okay.
Okay. Now I can delete this. So I'm clicking on it using my element properties and deleting. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next item that I said was special, selection set. If I grab and drag the selection set on our field or into our form, this allows us to say, just a silly example, what meal option would you like for the 2008, we could say for the January 2018 luncheon. And this is going to give them selection sets to choose from.
Steak, chicken, or?
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. I could see that being, yeah.
Hold on one second, Jamie. I'm sorry. Hold on one second.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I could add a selections and option limits, and we could say steak, chicken, whoops, or maybe there is a vegetarian option. And we could save this. Now, if they don't have to pay for these options, then you can just give them these options to choose from, and there they are. But if they have to pay additional to eat, then we can also use this as a price field. So we would turn the price field on, edit the select option limits and base pricing, and say, okay, well, steak, you're paying 25 bucks. Chicken is going to be 18, veggie, 15. And then another cool thing that we can do here, maybe your caterer said, okay, well, we're short on steaks. We only have 45 steaks. We could add a limit. Once steak has been selected 45 times, it'll be grayed out and it can't be selected again.
Wow.
So this is really helpful for if you have a limited number of seating for a conference or something. Maybe like you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday people can come and you only have 45 seats available for each day. It'll prevent you from overbooking.
Yeah, I've always used Eventbrite, and that's what I had. I had a 2-day conference and I sold either 2-day tickets or 1-day tickets, and I had that.
Gotcha. So you can, use this in here as well. All right, so we're going to save this. Now, anytime that you've got a selection set and there's these different money options, you can also apply member type pricing. So if you have some member types that get discounts or some member types that have to pay more, we can set member type pricing. This looks a little confusing, but really it's not so bad. So what we could do is you always want to put the rule on the form, and you'll create the exception in this member type pricing. So let's say that a founding member We've selected that founding member. We can add that column. Founding members, maybe they don't have to pay anything.
Yeah.
And then we could choose another member type. We could say, well, gold package and gold package biannual. I can add a column for them, and we can say they only pay a little bit. They don't pay full price. And then you could say prospect and public people that are coming, they have to pay. Whoops. Hey, what did I do? Oh, that's right. Did I?
Huh.
There. Prospect and public, maybe they have to pay a lot of money because they're not a member. And you want them to pay for everybody else's meal. So you are charging them a little bit more. Depending on how the person's logged in will determine what pricing they see. They will not see everybody else's pricing. They will only see the pricing associated with their member type.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Does that make sense how you could use that?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
So this is exactly how I would set up events then.
This is exactly how you would set it up in Eventbrite?
Well, this is how I would set up an event form, right?
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to save. And then once again, you always need to make sure you're editing the payment processor and revenue account.
Okay.
Now the last item that I want us to go through, so these are all of our form fields. Then we've got some presentation items. Presentation items are just how they sound. It's how the form presents itself. So if we messed up the beginning and we didn't check the right boxes to tell the form what type of form we were creating, we can always manually drag in the sections. I manually dragged in the general section because you'll always have to manually drag that in. But if it's for an event or if it's for membership, the system will automatically bring it in for you. So this is a general form or general section. I just grabbed the general section and plugged it in. And then I changed the name and started adding fields to it.
Okay.
So general sections are great for any kind of miscellaneous forms you need to create.
Okay.
The rest of these are all like horizontal line. It's literally just a horizontal line to help to act as a separator.
Yeah.
Label. This is going to be important. A label is, we just call it a label. I wish we called it a text box. It's literally just a text box. You can add disclaimers, directions. A lot of times what I see is, please note, no refunds 30 days before event, or something like that. And so when I save this, it's just adding a note to the field or to the form.
Okay. Can you refresh it so I can see it on the page?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because that's where you're going to have to put directions. Fill out the form below.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, cool.
And you'll notice we've got name, first name, last name, email, list, comments, questions, and then here's our little luncheon example. And because I'm a non-member, I see non-member pricing. I'm logged in as a non-member right now.
Okay, awesome. And then the contact form is always a non-member, I guess, because you don't require them to come in.
Because you're not required to, exactly. So this wouldn't really matter. I could have logged in as my member credentials, but I'm not.
I just wonder if like let's say that I sell events this way, and I could always say, you sign up for a free. Those that aren't signed up in the cannabis, I can charge $35 for a ticket instead of $25 for someone who's registered as a free member. So then I can list that as a benefit. You get discounts on networking events.
Exactly. And a lot of times what I see people do is in a little note like this, they'll say, please note all members receive, you could say like 20% off luncheons or events. Yeah. And then you could say something like, become a member today to receive 20% off.
Yeah.
And then you can list join here. Then you could just, like you've done before, you would use your join here, you'd highlight site links. This is just like our other editors. You can go to your forms, membership application, and insert. So now when they're on the form, please note all members receive 20% off luncheons, come receive 20% off. And then I could click join here, and it's going to take me to your membership application where I do have to log in.
Okay.
Okay, other things that we can do in here. Page break, these are typically added for you. Like here's an example of a page break. You can add them to general forms. So if you asked a ton of questions, like if you sent a survey after an event to ask what people thought of the event, you might want to add in a manual page break if there are tons of questions so they're not scrolling down the form. So for example, I added a page break right before. Let me refresh this. I would fill out this information.
Uh-huh.
My email. And then I would hit next. And now it brings me to this part. So see how it added a page break between those? That's what a page break does.
Okay.
And then the last item is white space. This is literally just white space. It's just another separator.
Okay.
Any questions on any of those?
I don't think so.
So we only have, I spent a little bit more time going through this, but it's so robust, so I wanted to make sure it all made sense. Do you have any other forms that we could create together that you can think of? Like, do you guys take donations?
No, we will not.
Okay.
But
anything?
You know, I think I'm going to list like sponsorship opportunities, and you know, like to sponsor like a broadcast or to sponsor an event.
Yeah, a sponsorship form.
Yeah, some sort of sponsorship form, because I do want to monetize certain things even further. You know, because people do want to get more front and center.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
what I would do is spend some time putting together some questions for a sponsorship form, and I would also spend some time putting together some items for an event registration form, just like as a template that you could go in and just make a couple edits to. You can create these in a Word document. It doesn't need to be anything fancy.
Yeah, like I can look at what the general questions have been for my Eventbrite process. Because
exactly.
I mean, yeah.
And then you could just send those to me, and I can create them for you. And if you want extra practice, you can create them, and I can watch you. We can spend some time with me just watching you create it.
Okay.
If you feel like that could be helpful for you to feel comfortable using the forms component.
Okay.
I'm
going to try to create a couple on my own.
You could definitely do that. We can review them together.
See how that goes. You know, I learn a lot better when I get in and figure things out.
I'm the same way, so I totally understand that.
Yeah.
So when you want to test your forms, I think the easiest way is just to use an incognito window. So if you're in Chrome, you'll either see a little yellow dot with like an exclamation point in it, or you might see 3 dots stacked on top of each other. Do you see that on your screen right now?
Yeah, the 3 dots on top of each other.
Yeah, go ahead and click on that, and there's going to be an option, New Incognito Window.
Uh-huh.
If you click on New Incognito Window, the reason that you want to do it through an incognito window when you test your forms is because if the system recognizes you as a member or as an admin, it won't allow you to test it. You want to make sure you're testing it as though you're like a non-member coming to the site. Because if you try to take the membership application, the system's going to be like, why are you doing this? You're an admin. Like, it's going to just give you an error.
Yeah, I did not ever know that that was an option.
Yep. So now when you test, it'll always be CACO.memberclicks.
Okay.
Memberclicks.net, and then / the alias, whatever the alias of the form is, which is under the form settings tab.
Contact.
Yep. So then you type in contact. So whenever you create a form, that's what you would do to test it. And that'll allow you to see what it looks like on the front end as a member, as somebody coming to your website would see it as.
Okay.
Okay. How are you feeling with all of that? Do you feel
Good.
a little saturated?
Well, I feel good, like I'm eager to get in and make a couple of forms, I guess. And yeah, like I'm feeling good about it.
Cool. So technically we only have our social community training left, and I'm a little bit afraid we might not be able to make it through the whole thing today. So what I'm thinking is, what I would like to do is I'm going to send you the video to a social community training. It's the exact same thing that I go through when we do our training. And if you'll take a minute, it's a little bit shorter. If you'll watch that video, and then when we get together on our next call, you can just ask any outstanding questions you have from it.
Okay.
And so if there's anything that you feel like you didn't hear enough on, or if you have additional questions, then we can just go through those questions. We'll also be able to use that time to go through our Go Live checklist, which I'm going to send you. So we're very close. So this is what that Go Live checklist is going to look like, and it's just going to make sure that you've done every item. And all I want you to do is go through each thing and say, okay, yes, I've done that. Yes, I've done this. Yes, I've done that.
Okay.
And just work your way through each item. And I think what happens when people get to this part is they get a little scattered. So it's easiest if you just focus on one thing at a time. Now, what I want to do right now before we end our call today is I'd like to create a test invoice so that you can see what it'll look like. Does that sound good to you?
That's fine with me.
So what I'm going to do, and it looks like I'm still missing your organization logo. So I still need you to complete the invoice settings piece before we do that. I'll just do it really fast. Hold on. We're going to put this logo on here. Save image as, save. And then I'm going to go back to your financial invoices. We're going to go to your invoice settings, upload, downloads. And then what information do you want to appear in the top left-hand corner of your invoice?
Of the invoice?
Yeah, probably like cannabis connection. And then what about your connection? Your address?
Cannabisconnection.com.
What about your physical address?
Oh, 1139 Slayton.
Will you spell that for me?
Slayton. It'd be Avenue. Grand Haven. MI, Michigan, 49417. And actually under Cannabis Connection, put, actually above it, put Fresh Coast Innovations.
Did I hear that correctly?
Coast, COST, LLC. Yeah, and then Cannabis Connection is my DBA. So all my financials run through Fresh Coast Innovations. That way I don't get messed with.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Okay. So then from here, I'm going to create an ad hoc invoice. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to just search your name. And under your profile, when you're in somebody's profile, there's an actions drop down, and I can just create an ad hoc invoice for you.
Oh.
And I'm going to say we're using just an offline payment, default invoice template. That's fine. And I'm going to say it's just for $1. And I'm going to call it test. And I'm going to select, I'm not going to select a revenue account. And I'm going to create the ad hoc invoice. So now, when I go into our financial and invoices, here's your invoice that's been created. And I can click on your invoice number, and that's what your invoice looks like.
Oh, Nice.
Do you see anything that you might want to change about this?
This looks really good.
Okay, cool.
That looks really good.
Good. There's one other thing I wanted to do while I was here.
Oh, I need to change my banking, the account number for the monthly payment.
Oh, okay.
I got a new, I opened up my account. I am still waiting on authorize.net. Like, I signed up for the account a week and a half ago. I signed up for the account, got an email and a phone call from them saying that it was going to the underwriter, and the underwriter would get a hold of me within 48 hours, and I didn't hear anything. And yesterday I sent them an email saying, hey, I haven't heard anything, and I still haven't heard anything. So I'm going to call them today and say, hey, I still haven't heard anything.
And they may be. So, like, if you went through Moolah, which I know you can't go through Moolah, but if you did, I usually tell my clients that it can take up to 3 weeks.
Okay.
I say 10. What do I say? I say 15 business days. Yeah, so 3 weeks, because it has to go through a bank approval process. And with it being the holiday season, you know, banks are like,
oh yeah, halfway open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that might be slowing us down a little bit.
Okay. I won't freak out. I'm sure it'll be settled and okay by the 15th.
Yes, I feel confident that it will be. But giving them a call today to light a little fire under their butt might not be a bad idea.
Okay, I will. I have it on my list because I want things to go through okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I will have billing reach out to you about the
new. Because I want
address.
The next payment to go through my new account, not the existing one.
Yes. You know what? If you wanted to just email that new information, you could just send it to billing@memberclicks.com.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, just send it to billing@memberclicks, because they're just going to reach out to you and say, hey, what do you need to send me? So just, send the new info to
billing.com. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Exactly. Now let's go ahead and set up. So I'm going to send you the social community. I want you to go through this Go Live checklist. Let's go ahead and set up our next call. What do you do? We have something set up already?
No, we don't. So we'll have to set it up for next week.
What day works best for you next week?
Well, Monday's a holiday. How about Wednesday?
I could do Wednesday. Now, we really want that Go Live checklist to be complete by the time we get to that call. Do you think you'll have enough time to go through everything and make sure all the loose ends are tied up by then?
No.
Okay.
How about we do Friday the 5th? Oh my gosh, so I need to have it like ready to go live by the 5th or by our next phone call?
You don't have to have it to go live, but I want you to have gone through that whole Go Live checklist. We're going to go through it again together. But, I'm going to be more so confirming.
Let's do Friday.
I am annoyingly traveling for work on Friday. Could you do Thursday?
I could do Thursday, yes. I have a phone call at 2:30, and then the rest of the day is free.
Could we do? Could you do 9 a.m.?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
9 a.m. it is.
Okay. Yeah, so if we're just going to go through the Go Live checklist. Any questions you have remaining, any questions you have on the from the social community video that I'm going to send you, if you want to spend some time going back through that, we can. But I definitely want to go through the Go Live checklist. And then that means that after that, any questions you have, that'll be kind of like our second to our last call.
Okay.
And so we'll still have plenty of time between our last call. And you can take as much time as you need between that call and the following. But then and I shouldn't say that. We'll probably have 2 more calls after that one to send out the welcome email, and then one just to touch on any additional questions that came through from the welcome email.
Okay. That sounds good.
Awesome. All right. Well, let me know if you have any questions. I'll send your follow-up email later this afternoon. If you need anything else, you just let me know.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay, bye.